Welcome to the bold analysis. The dominant narrative in the Republic of Kenya is that the President William Ruto has failed, or rather had failed, to listen to the people. And I want us to draw a very good comparison on something that is very critical to the Gen Z. The Gen Z protest has awakened Africa. There's an attempt, some protest is being organized in Nigeria, same to Cameroon and Ghana. But there is something that those protests have exposed, and they have negatively exposed William Ruto in the global world, and has also exposed a narrative that has been said for long around the Republic of Kenya. And there is something that Ibrahim Traore, the Burkina FASO president, is saying, that the new colonialism of Africa is partly, or rather, one of the packaged tools being used is the Western media.
Western media is not new. You're journalists. You work in the media. Do you see what we call the media lie? I think many people have understood now. Most of them are media liars. They spent their time lying, manipulating. And today, when I watch them in their reports, it's shameful, and it's very good. They even prove to all of Africa, to the whole world, that they're liars. And it's good. I think the young Africans and the young Burkina FASO people should stop listening to them, because they manipulated us for a long time. You have several examples. Let's take Ivory Coast. Who doesn't hate Guavo? Our generation. They lied so much about him. They said nonsense. They put pressure by the information. You end up hating the person. They make a model of the person to impose it in your mind. You end up hating the person. We take him to the CPI, then we say he's innocent. He's guilty of nothing. It's serious. We let Gaddafi die. Here are the consequences. Dictators. They did it by their own organization. They lie, RFI, France 24, Le Monde, Young Africa. They have to do the job we ask them to do. They're not free. Many media don't live by advertising. It's false. They pay you and give you the information they want. In Burkina Faso, people say we attack journalists, but it's not true. We have to choose between earning our bread and loving our country. They fight for their country. It's their advantage. We have to get away from that. We see national media taking these media as reference. They cite certain newspapers as liars. They have no information. Their reporters are liars. When they want to attack a country, they paint it as they want. They say what they want to make everyone hate and let them do what they want. We're in 2024. It's a game of chess. We'll see what happens. You have to get away from these media.
Hello, Your Excellency. In connection with the shooting, some sources say there were helicopter movements in Ouagadougou and Duri. What explains these helicopter movements?
We said we followed a helicopter to Duri. When you see big people lying, it's pitiful. Actually, Wednesday was the day after the attack in Mansilla. We launched an operation in Mansilla. The helicopters sent reinforcements, that's it. They took off to Duri to take 9th Brigade elements. They took the hygiene elements in Ouagadougou for the operation in Mansilla. That's how we learned it. It's true, they have a tactic. They exploit the few neurons left to do something real. They always take real information and build their big lies. If you're not vigilant, you'll think it's true. The helicopters really flew over. It's a fact. Everyone saw it. But why did they fly over? That's the question. They build their big lies around it. Everyone saw the helicopters flying over. They use it to say they fled. It's false. It's the same tactic they used when the Irish landed in Ouagadougou. There were 6 Irish flights in Ouagadougou. It's true. When I look at them, they lie so much that they build their big lies around it. They say they're Malian soldiers. I wouldn't say they're Malian soldiers. They're ISIS soldiers. They're Malian soldiers. They can come to Burkina Faso whenever they want. But it's false. The Russians are already here. They're working together. Why would they come? They couldn't help us do what we wanted. It doesn't mean anything. I can assure you that the helicopters were made by the United Nations. At the end of the mission, the ammunition was left in Gao and Bamako. The Tombouctou ship took our ammunition and evacuated it to Bamako. They destroyed the ship. We found other ways to send it there. We picked up ammunition from other countries. There's a structure of the United Nations that's in operation and has to supervise it. It's the ammunition from the mission we picked up. In Gao, we had an FPI. In Tombouctou, we had our men. That's all. But this is all strange. It's false. There was nothing. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, the FPI had to communicate. But we didn't even want them to communicate. The soldiers' parents started calling them. We asked them if they wanted to meet. They said they were in operation. Some were in Manzala, some were in Bani. They asked if the FPI could communicate so we could stop bothering them and let them focus on their mission. Do you see what they're doing? It's not good. It's their wish, but they won't see it come true. It's an insult to our soldiers. Our soldiers are much smarter than them. They know what they're doing, where the country is, and where we're going.
In some areas, we even talked about power holidays and that in the army, there would be treaties to nominate your successor. Were you informed about this treaty?
If it's a holiday, who comes to take it? They say we fled to Nigeria. They didn't come to take it. What are they doing there? They didn't come to take it. They don't understand anything. But if they were paid and didn't reach their goal, they have to lie to justify what they're doing. It's not just them. They wander the world, they lie, they work with terrorists to kill Burkina Faso, believing they can change things. It's a revolution. I don't understand. If it's a holiday, they have to come and take it. These people have no children. They have nothing in the army. And you're sitting there trying to manipulate other people's children, hoping to do what you want. Are they smart? It's an insult. It's an insult to the Burkina Faso people to take people for children, to tell lies and think people will swallow it. No, people are smart. We're in 2024. It's not the time when people can see information and jump on it. But they have several goals. It's chaos. It's destabilizing Burkina Faso because they don't like what's happening in Burkina Faso. And that comforts us. It makes us want to reach our goal. So don't be afraid of that.
A lot of information has been released. What is your message to Burkina Faso and to the diaspora who are questioning the transition?
People will understand. We're here. Maybe they'll say it's fake. Come shake my hand. Maybe they'll think it's real. At least it's not fake. They have all the technology. We don't have that level yet. We're free in our country. People shouldn't worry. I said they have many goals. One of the goals is to scare investors by saying Burkina Faso is unstable. You know, Burkina Faso has been one of the 10 most attractive countries in Africa. Investors want to come to Burkina because they see the vision. They see that this country can develop with what we're doing. A lot of people come to invest in Burkina. When they do that, it scares investors. That's their goal. So tell Burkina Faso and other investors to come to Burkina. What they say is very false. Burkina is stable. They can come. They can believe in Burkina. All those who read the media are lying. It's what they say. That's one of their goals. They have a plan, but we know we're waiting for them. Maybe next time we'll tell them to watch TV. It's not just the next plan. They're trying to hack applications in Burkina Faso to disrupt certain things. We're waiting for them. They're not doing anything. When they start lying, it's because of something. But we're waiting for them. We'll give them the right answer. Those who are inside and continue to manipulate will understand us. Now it's over. We've given them time to tell their lies. We'll act firmly. We don't want people to go outside and say things like that. It doesn't mean anything. It's unfortunate that Burkina Faso is outside and participating in this. There are many voices that continue to be heard. We don't know what we've done to them, but they're still lying. No one will listen to them. We want to reassure everyone that Burkina Faso is still peaceful and undisturbed. We're still working for the happiness of Burkina Faso.
With everything that's happening, are you afraid for your life? How do you deal with everything that's happening?
The reason is that the emotion is black. They're playing with emotions. When they finally make everyone understand that they're the cause of the attacks.
And there is something he's saying. He's saying that when an agenda is to be driven in Africa, the international media is the tool to do it. And we are going to look at this keenly because just before the protests, William Ruto had received accolades. The global newspapers and the global newsrooms had really praised the leadership of William Ruto as one that is the best in Africa, received some of the biggest dignitaries in the world, and was touted as the head boy of Africa. Now, recently there was a terrorist attack in Burkina Faso. And after that terrorist attack, the Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traore had a meeting with Burkina Faso residents and some journalists. I wanted to listen to this speech by Traore. And there is something we are going to gather from there on how what he is saying about the global media. And Traore was responding to some of the queries from journalists and the members of the public about the state of Burkina Faso. There is something Traore is saying there, that there are a lot of information and fear mongering that had been sold about, that had been said by international media about Burkina Faso. Remember, Traore, the junta ruler, came after a coup. And some of the Western nations have not been so receptive of coup d'etats in the west of Africa. And Traore is saying that the global media had been used to taint the image of Burkina Faso as a very hostile and volatile environment country, that there is no environment, that there is no that investors should not go there. And that is the point he's making, that Africa must redefine its story. I think that's what I want us to gather here, that Africa must tell its own story. He is saying that, of course, after that terrorist attack, there were other information that even global media reported that Traore had left the country and flew to some foreign country. And that was just part of mudslinging by the international media. And he's saying it is high time that Africa rewrites its story. Now let me bring you, that's why I want to relate this with what's happening in Kenya. In Kenya here, before the Gen Z protests, William Ruto had been touted as one of the best presidents here. But in real sense, he was being fattened for slaughter. He was given excess legitimacy. And analysts have been asking, how fast can it be? Just a month after making a tour to US, and after months of global escapades in the world, the president gets back in the country and cannot even settle because the country, Kenya, feels the country is headed in the wrong direction. So I want to show you what the international media said about William Ruto that Gen Z debunked. Number one was that the benchmark of Kenyan democratic standards. If you are in this country, you will realize that Meg Whitman, the US ambassador, and the then Jane Marriott, who was the British ambassador in the country at the time of election, and even after, during last year's Devolution conference in Eldoret, the Meg Whitman praised the Kenyan election as one of the most free and fairest election that produced the best. But that has been exposed because that has been debunked as not true. Because much of it being praised by the international media and the globalists playing that agenda, how can it be just like 2 years after that election, he becomes the first president in the history of Kenya to reject a finance bill, and the first president under his reign that the people raided, or rather the people stormed parliament. So that has been exposed. And this is what I'm linking here is, we were told, and much of the good accolades that President Ruto was given was also the best conducive environment, the best country for investment. So, but do you know that is not true? And I want to tell you why. The recent protest is about overtaxation. And this finance bill was opposed even by one of the largest telecommunication company in the country, Safaricom. The investors, or rather manufacturers of different manufacturers in the country, had an outcry. Last 2023, they cried of matching housing levy, that one that has been contributed by the employer, but the employee is supposed to match. That one was hurting them. Even now, imports of levy on, or rather tax on imports used as raw materials in producing some of the products in the country are some of the most heavily taxed. To the young people, they are saying the more the taxation regime becomes unpredictable and punitive, investors are leaving the country. And because investors are leaving the country, they cannot get jobs. So it is not true that Kenya is a conducive, one of the best business hubs, even as we speak. Because now I was just reading a story that there was a data center that was supposed to be established in Kenya, and there is an interference from China, and probably US is even thinking of dropping that project. And as if you just think that is enough, that is not enough. Do you know that at one point the head of chairman of finance committee, Kimani Kuria, was saying that investors can actually go out and can go out of the country and produce in other countries and import in Kenya duty free. And Kenya's competitive advantage, even within East Africa, is not looking good. And you can compare the prices of petrol. The other thing that was really said is that President Ruto was leading Kenya in the right direction. That has been proved. If he was leading Kenya in the right direction, then these young people in the streets could have not been in the street in the first place. And about being the happiest nation in Africa, or rather in sub-Saharan Africa, that's also not true. Are we really the happiest ones? I think now as we speak, we have some of the most devastating stories about human rights violation. So all this has been debunked. And that is why I'm taking the story from Traore. Traore is saying that what the global media is the tool in Africa that is being used to fatten Africa for slaughter. In Burkina Faso, they're not supporting the junta rule. They're not supporting Traore, and every tool is at place to debunk any activity or either to create fear and make sure that investors flee the country. Here, there are a lot of very poetic stories and accolades that is being poured on President Ruto, and this is now when he's being given the IMF and the World Bank loans on how he's best qualified and is going to pay, is not going to default. But back at home, the population is unhappy. And maybe you need to understand this is thriving because of advancing a globalist agenda. I want you to listen to this soundbite of Bill and Melinda Gates talking about depopulation.
We've talked about a lot tonight, but by the end of the century, Africa is going to be home to 1 of every 3 young people on the planet. How does that inform your work and your investments?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge that the places where babies will be born are increasingly the toughest places in the world. You know, the number of babies being born has peaked and is going down slightly, but the portion that are born in Africa will go over the course of the century from about 22% today to about 50% by the end of the century. And that, you know, Africa today is only 1 billion of 7.3 billion people. So the fact that that's where half the children were born by the end of the century speaks to this issue. And even within Africa, it's places like Niger, the north of Nigeria, where you'll still have a lot of kids being born. And so, you know, we have to help those governments get their primary education right, get all the things that we take for granted. Fortunately, some countries are graduating, China, Brazil, Indonesia, even India, things are going well enough that they'll be able to support almost all of their own needs. And so Africa, it's primarily Africa with a few additional countries where all the foreign aid and philanthropy can focus in because of the success in most of Asia and Latin America with these very tough issues.
One of the things that surprised us when we got into this work, and I think is worth mentioning tonight, is that as you save these children's lives, that is, as Bill said, death rates of children under the age of 5 have been cut in half. There used to be this fear around the world that if you cut childhood death rate, then you would have massive overpopulation. But luckily, the converse is true, that parents in these low-income settings, they are making basically an insurance bet. They want to know that several of their children will survive till adulthood. So as they can see that their children survive, they actually will they want to bring down the number of kids that they have. But today there are still many, many places like northern Nigeria or Niger that you go, where if you sit in a village, and I've done this, and you sit and there's maybe 150 women, the men have gone back to the fields to work, and you stay and talk to the women and you say, how many of you know a woman who's lost a child in childbirth? Literally every single hand will go up. And then if you say, how many of you have lost a child in childbirth, you'll still see about 40% of the hands go up. So they've seen so much death with children, they're having a lot to make sure a few survive. And yet women will say to you over and over and over again, I want to have fewer children, but what happened? What happened to that clinic that used to have contraceptives for me? What happened to the fact that, okay, the clinic's still there, but there's no supply of what I want to use? And so one of the things that we have gotten deeply involved in is access to contraceptives, because 220 million women are telling us they want access. And so if families can, we know from great research and data in Bangladesh that if parents can bring down the number of children they have, their children are healthier, their children are better educated, and the family is wealthier. It is the greatest anti-poverty tool. And so if you think about why women, for instance, in the United States have the opportunity to work, it was the advent of the pill. And so we are quite determined to help women have access to the tools that they want around the world. And that will help with some of the population numbers in Africa, but that is not the reason to do it.
So I want to end with this question of a potential breakthrough that you see coming, whether it's something you're working on within the foundation or that you're just seeing generally that you're most hopeful and optimistic about?
Yeah, I have a lot that I could name. Just in the vaccine field alone, there's great hope that in the next 10 or 15 years we'd have a vaccine for tuberculosis and HIV and malaria, so the big killers. And that's why it's worth holding HIV in check until we get that tool that we can stop people from getting infected. In terms of the thing I'm most excited about, I'd go back to nutrition. The fact that 40% of the kids never have their body or brain fully developed, and that by solving that growth problem, having them have full growth, they will also survive even tough episodes of these diseases. That is so exciting, and it requires genetic sequencing, it requires big data, it requires all these tools that 10 years ago, the microbiome, which I wasn't the first to mention that. I always try not to use too many scientific words, but she said it first. The microbiome was opaque because the amount of sequencing and data processing you have to do to even understand what's going on. These are the bacteria growing in your gut. That's the single thing that I'm most excited about, and I see will be very likely in this decade to dramatically reduce malnutrition.
Melinda, anything to add to that?
Well, the thing that I think is imperative for the world, in addition, absolutely, the science which moves us forward, is we have to empower women and girls. And if you want to lift up societies, you empower and educate girls. And it starts in most of these countries with good health, because if you don't have decent health, you can't go on to get a great education. But the more and more and more I've seen.
I took this interesting because now this is one of the agenda that is being propagated here. And you can see President Ruto, while was in Meru, was talking about, vaccinating cows. Now there is a program of deworming school children, because they're saying that most absentees is because of deworming in schools. And I also analyze in this channel about the controversy of a vaccine that was to be introduced by World Health Organization. As if that is not enough, the IMF had also proposed to Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya, and I think Senegal, to consider family planning, or rather funding government to fund family planning as one of the ways, as one of the strategies to spur economic growth. So the depopularization of the depopulation of the country agenda is happening, and at an expense that even some presidents in Africa are doing it. So the lesson that we are capturing from what Traore is saying is that we need to tell our story. And the Kenyan media, or rather the African people, must understand what really is their context. Like and people will actually believe. We are meant to believe we had some of the most free and fair election. We also meant to believe that after we were picked, Kenya was picked to lead the Haiti mission, that Kenya is the most professional police in the world. That is far from the truth, because just the recent handling of protesters is showing a different image. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my take, and let's meet in the next. Hi guys, so we're in free area, Nakuru, Yeah, so with Brenda, it's quite a long day. Brenda, first, on behalf of the Gen X that are members of this, and also me, we want to say Pole. I was told that there are things that our parents and I probably did not do, and that is why your team is actually fighting for us. And it's very heartwarming kwamba even at the end of it, you could still stay a luta continua. Brenda, what happened? Ilikuwa aje hiyo siku?
So tulikuwa tumetoka, so maandamano ilikuwa within town. So watu wakatoka town, walikuwa wanapita like the whole town places. So wakakuja hivi sides za State House. So si wakasimama, then there's a field in opposite State House. Side ya chini, so people were there, they were like...
Ilikuwa field outside State House?
Opposite State House. Kuna highway imepita, then State House side ya chini, kuna ka field. So we were there, like a lot of us, with flags, nini. So obviously we were fighting for the finance bill to be dropped. Then they opened fire, wakaanza kushatia gas, then they opened fire. When they opened fire, wakati nilikuwa nakimbia for my life, nikagonga, kama niligonga mawe, then nikaanguka. Then nikaangukia tena mawe wengine. Then nika dislocate the hip joint. Then sasa watu venye walikuwa wanakimbia, so watu wana kukanyaga wakienda hivyo.
Na uwezi amka?
Hapana, sikuwa naweza simama. Yeah, so that's basically what happened. So ikabidi nimelala hapo hadi like watu wote wametoroka, then the police wakaenda, then somebody mwenye alikuwa anapita ndio nikaita mtu pikipiki akanipe nini.
But the police didn't care kwamba mtu ako chini and they...
No, they didn't.
Well, sana on behalf of us. So guys, that is what happened to Brenda. So we've had a long day. We had to the hospital. The X-ray has been done, and we may find out that dislocated hip joint. So he's been put under medication. Wamesema after what they have done, sasa watafanya physiotherapy. Then after physiotherapy, there are also some other medicines that sasa tabidi ununue so that you take.
Yeah.
And we really thank you guys because the Brenda case was very emotive. Kwamba know that kwa msichana, mlikuwa wasichana wengi sana pale?
Tulikuwa wasichana wengi.
And better tell us, why do you think mademu ilitokea there this time?
Najua watu wamechoka because sisi tuko hapa jobless na sisi tumemaliza shule.
Wewe pia umemaliza?
So people are there, they're like, tumemaliza shule, we don't have jobs, kazi ni kukaa kwa nyumba. Nobody wants to employ us.
What did you study?
Veterinary medicine.
Veterinary medicine, eh? So guys, nani alifanya veterinary medicine? So veterinary medicine ni nadili na ng'ombe, agricultural, eh? That should be Egerton, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Egerton ni nadili na hiyo. So we want to thank you guys. So what we'll do a cash transfer so that itakusaidia, we'll make sure umemeza hizo madawa as they said, and you know we also attend to the physios. It will take some time, eh? But you'll be updating us of the progress. Sawa, utakuwa to update in case of any other challenge. Utakuwa unatusaidia. So this was ndio mguu yenye ilikuwa na shida, ilikuwa na shida hii.
Hii ndio yenye this one. The one nimeona kutoka hapa hivi. So hata nikijaribu kuinua mguu juu and all the weight comes here. Chungu kabisa. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so pole sana and all the best. We are also praying for your recovery. And we are also happy that your voices are being loud, are coming out loud. You are fighting for us, both me and you. And we believe that what you people are doing is not in vanity. Thank you for coming out. And I believe that you're part of the change for this society. Home ni wapi?
Home ni Kisii.
Oh, home ni Kisii. Nyamache. Oh, when did you graduate?
2022.
Oh, 2022. So for the last 2 years hujapata kazi bado?
No.
Okay. And we believe someone have a job for Brenda. Akishapona Brenda apate kazi, si ndio? Yeah, and we will be very happy. So thank you very much and may God bless all of us.